Which door or window sensor should you buy? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. But what I can tell you is how the 4 different contact sensors I have in my smart home have performed over the last 2 years. And maybe more importantly, whether I would buy them again. Oh, and just so we're clear, this video is not sponsored, nor were these devices provided to me by a brand. Some of the brands I'm going to mention have provided products to me before, but this video is just my long-term experience with these specific devices. So use that information how you see fit. First up is the Third Reality door and window contact sensor. These are Zigbee based and pair with ZHA and Zigbee to MQTT, and on paper sport a 2-year battery life using 2 AAA batteries. I installed these on all 4 of my exterior doors when we moved into this house July of 2022. And as of this video in June of 2024, all of these still have around 33% of battery life remaining. So at that rate, I'm going to get more than 2 years of battery life out of these devices. In terms of reliability, I've never had an issue with these contact sensors. Response rate is quick, which is good because they're part of my security system. My only issue really with these has been sticking to doors with the included double-sided tape. That is most likely a me problem, but they do provide a way to use a screw to hold these to your door. If I'm looking for a Zigbee-based contact sensor, Third Reality is always my first choice. These run around $20 a piece, so they're not the cheapest I'm going to talk about in this video. But Third Reality is one of the Works with Home Assistant brands. And from a rando on YouTube's perspective, from the outside looking in of course, Third Reality appears to be focused on building good products first, and not trying to build their own smart home platform. The Ecolink contact sensor is the only Z-Wave contact sensor in my house. This one actually moved from my other house, so I've had it well over 5 years now. It does work with Z-Wave JS and the Zeus Z-Wave stick, which I'm currently using. This one promises a 1+ year battery life using a single CR123 battery. From my experience, I get about 12 months of battery life for the one connected to my washer. The one I use on my wife's closet door gets somewhere closer to 18 months. Did you know in houses built prior to 1980 in the United States, closet lights were not common? Anyway, the washer one does have hiccups from time to time where it doesn't report it's open. But that's been a more recent occurrence. So it could be age related or just that it's on my washer because it deals with a lot of vibration. For me, the killer feature is this one can be connected to a wired sensor, which probably isn't something you would have thought about. But if you had an old security system, you could easily wire all the sensors to a single Ecolink contact sensor. My biggest complaint with this one is size. Even with the CR123 battery, this thing is pretty big. But if I wanted to connect a wired contact sensor to Home Assistant, or if I was just looking for a Z-Wave device specifically, the Ecolink would be my first choice. At $32, it is the most expensive of the 4 on this list, but some of that is probably the cost of Z-Wave certification. Aqara's devices are of course Zigbee, and they do work with ZHA and Zigbee to MQTT, although I tend to have a better experience with Zigbee to MQTT. These sensors promise a 2-year battery life using the coin-style CR1632 battery. This one, on one of my bathroom doors, has been in place for over a year. It's still reporting 100% battery life in Zigbee to MQTT, which isn't exactly accurate. But in my experience, Aqara devices show 100% or dead, so it's hard to know when they're going to die. And that's not just a Home Assistant issue. If you add these to the Aqara M2 hub, they just show the battery as normal or not. Which brings us to things that matter. Or more specifically, one of the 2 Matter capable devices on this list. When paired to the M2 hub, you can use Matter to add these sensors to Home Assistant. But you do lose out on some of the device detail when compared to Zigbee to MQTT. My biggest complaint with this is probably the battery information. Without having reliable information on how much battery I have left, it makes it hard to trust these devices in critical areas like security. Not to mention, Aqara devices in general don't strictly follow the Zigbee standard, which doesn't mean they won't work. It just makes me worried a future Zigbee change could cause compatibility issues. The killer feature with these is the size. These things are small, which makes them ideal when you want your sensor to be discreet. These are definitely the cheapest of the four, and you can always find some good deals on them. Although the CR1632 batteries are not always the easiest to find in my experience, so consider that as part of the cost as well. If I had a use case calling for a small contact sensor, I would definitely buy one of these again. And of course, if you have an M2 hub and you want to leverage Matter, this would be a good fit. I just wouldn't use it for a security sensor. And the last one I use in my smart home is the Switchbot contact sensor. This is a Bluetooth sensor, and it can connect to Home Assistant over the Bluetooth integration. Or if you have the Switchbot Hub 2, it can connect over Matter, which might be a good choice if you don't want to mess with Bluetooth and Home Assistant. Battery life on this one is around 1 year on its 2 AAA batteries. And from the history data, it looks like this one loses about 10% of its battery a month, which also puts it at the most power hungry of the 4 in my house. But I suspect some of that is because it's packed with features the other sensors simply don't have, like both a motion and light sensor, which can help provide some nice context in certain use cases. Like the other sensors in my smart home, I found this one to be reliable as well. My biggest complaint with this one would have to be the Bluetooth. While not completely a deal breaker, it does require more planning to ensure you have enough coverage to keep things reliable. These run around $25 a piece, so in the top 2 in terms of expense for the 4 on this list. But depending on use case, this could be a good choice. The killer feature is the additional motion sensor, because depending on where you put this contact sensor, you can tell based on when motion is detected if someone is coming towards the sensor before the door opens or away, which could help determine which automation should fire. And it's that capability that would be my deciding factor in whether to purchase one of these again. Now, of course, all of this is based on my experience. Honestly, I don't think there's a bad sensor among these 4. Definitely nothing that would make me want to replace them with a different brand or a different sensor. But if I had to pick one and only one, it would be the Third Reality one, for the brand's reputation, the battery performance, and because they use normal batteries. And if I'm not being forced to pick just one, then it all comes down to the best device for the use case. I left some affiliate links in the description for anyone wanting to grab one of these for your smart home, which of course supports SlackerLabs at no cost to you. Now let me know what your experience has been with these or other contact sensors down in the comments. Good or bad, I want to know. That way we can use that knowledge to help automate the boring stuff.